Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday night. It's extra time. It's hallelujah. Hallelujah time. I am in a much better place than I was yesterday. Obviously, if you watch my instant reaction after the game, I was quite emotional. It's my mom's birthday, who we miss very much. My dad was upset, which got to me. And, we had all of that the same old thing yesterday, and I was quite emotional about it. But do you know what? It's good to show your emotions. And a day on, I've been out for a nice meal today with my dad and my family. We've raised the glass for my mom, and Gary O'Neill has been sacked. And finally, and so we're going to cover all that. And we have got an absolutely wolf-tastic show tonight. There's already over 400 of you watching live. So we'll be getting into the chat in a minute. And we have got a lineup of epic proportions tonight. So much so that we're going to be breaking it into two halves. In the green room tonight already, we've got Wolves senior writer George. We've got Lewis. We have the Lord himself, Jason. We have cheerful Chris. That who knows, he might have a bit of a smile on his face. And we've got Super Sooty as well. And guys, in the link below this video on YouTube, if you do want to join in and have a pop on for 2 minutes and have your say, phone in. We'll put you in the green room. We'll get you on the show as well. Before we get going, I do want to say, of course, as always, a massive, big thank you to, where is it? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Massive, big thank you to one of our partners, Creation Wolf, who support the channel and power this show extra time. They deliver the industry's and latest, most advanced digital solutions, taking your digital brand, online presence and capabilities to the next level. You can find them on creationwolf.com. Link is in the description below this video. You can search it out. And of course, in the podcast. So let's get started. Before we get to the chat, we have on first our senior writer. Hello, George. How you doing, mate?
Dave, I'm despite the result, mate, I'm a little bit better based on today's news, and I can see there's some hope now. There's possibility, and I think that's all we've been asking for is some action. So I am actually feeling quite positive, which is a bizarre feeling considering the situation that we've been in for the last all season really. So I'm feeling positive, I'm feeling onwards, mate.
Do you know what? I think that may be a reflection of most fans, because my mood's obviously in a lot better place for a lot of reasons today than yesterday. But we've got a lot to chew the fat on, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna get stuck in. We've also got the Lord coming on, Mr. Lord Jason. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I once again I'm feeling. I think I'm feeling as relieved as Gary. I did put a comment on Twitter yesterday that if he was a horse, you'd shoot him. It's gone on for way too long, hasn't it? So at least now there's going to be a bit of renewed hope.
Well, absolutely renewed hope. And Jace, it was really nice as well to see you at the Honved.
Oh yeah,
celebration as well.
Can I quickly mention that if anybody hasn't seen that sculpture yet, I've got to say we've got the Sir Jack Hayward statue, Stan Collis, Billy Wright, and they're all fantastic in their own right, and very, very fitting. But that Honved sculpture is really, really special, isn't it? There's something really, really different and unique, and it's a really, really great focal point. So listen, we've got to give credit to the club, although it's not going right on the pitch. That's a lovely, fitting tribute. And I think it's a really special thing.
And do you know what? Absolutely, mate, because they've done a lot around we will start off with the positive, because we've done a lot around the Honved thing. They've worked hard on it. The film, if you've not seen it as well, was really quite emotional. Lots of clips from some icons. The 50s team was, obviously I didn't get to see that 50s team. You've seen it, we've seen clips and stuff. My dad was 16 years old. He went with his dad to that Honved game. He was a
Brilliant.
young lad, and I think that's why he was also quite emotional as well because of all of surrounding that. Also, a big up to the old goal pack. What a job they
Yeah.
did with the banners as well. They did absolutely amazing. They've been working really, really hard on that, and the statue is magnificent. Local people that's done it just by the side of the ticket office. When you get down to Molyneux, get yourself over.
I'll tell you what would make it really special, Dave. Sorry to interrupt. I was thinking about this on the day. If they had some uplighters, I think especially at night and night games, that was uplit.
You know what? I completely agree with you because when I went to see it again yesterday, I went with my dad and I went with Emma and Stan, and we went to see it. We're talking to a few people around there, and they were actually saying that exact thing. You know, those little lights that could light it up of an evening. It would just
it symbolised the floodlights almost, wouldn't it? It's just a thought. I didn't want to say it on the day, obviously, but I just think that'd really make a difference. But listen, it's amazing. You must go and see, guys.
Absolutely, completely agree. So we've got so much to talk about tonight, and we are going to be breaking the show into two halves. The main news, obviously, we lost the game yesterday. We've talked about the Honved thing. We're going to talk about the game. There's obviously, again, major flashpoint at the end of the game. Rayan Ait-Nouri losing it. You know, Craig Dawson turned into the Incredible Hulk in his green jacket, literally him up and throwing him down the touchline. Matthias Cunha is a really, really nice guy. I don't know what happened, but he lost it and pulled someone's glasses off. There's probably going to be a ban of some description. And
Ridiculous.
this was indicative of where we got to. We saw Sarr in the South Bank. We saw Lamina the week before, his captain. And then you don't expect to see the next game. And it was even worse. And it was just an indicative, I think, of a loss of discipline and loss of respect for the coaching staff. The dressing room had gone. It was all falling apart. It was embarrassing. So, George, do you want to just go first on, obviously, the game yesterday, the incidents at the end of the game, and, of course, your thoughts today on the sacking finally of Gary O'Neill?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the incidents after, coming the week after it happened at West Ham as well. For me, that was one of the biggest things that irritated me, because I've got a big problem with it, to be honest, because for me, you've got a responsibility as a professional footballer, and I think exactly like you've just said, it's indicative of there's no discipline behind the scenes. There's no respect for the manager. And yeah, that you can blame the manager for that as well. Yeah, he hasn't commanded that respect. But I think that just goes to show, if you want to know what was happening behind the scenes on a day-to-day basis within that club for the last, at least 3 months, maybe before that, then you look at those reactions post-match. And to be honest, I actually think it's one of the biggest reasons it's forced Fosun to pull the trigger. I've seen a few bits and pieces today online saying it's come from above Jeff's head. They were literally starting to bring the club into disrepute. It was such a mess. It was being talked about across. It was like basically national news that Wolves were becoming a mess, and I think that's put all attention onto the situation. And in the long run, it might have actually helped us. But
do you think the players almost have done that to force a hand in some ways, or is it just a spontaneous lack of discipline?
No, I think it's just a pure lack of discipline. I think what it comes from for me is they're not buying into what he's telling them, and they're frustrated at that what they're being told to do isn't working. It's just rooted in Dave. It's rooted in incompetency. Is how I see it, to be honest. But as I was saying, I think it's probably done us a favour in the long run. But I mean, if you take that Cunha incident, I've watched it a few times. But what is he thinking when he tries to
no idea.
discreetly put that elbow in the back of that guy's head, as if he's making it as if he's been forced forward, but you can see there's clearly no one behind him. But what a rush of blood that is. I mean, it's just crazy. Just get down the tunnel and have your arguments, thrash it out in there. You know, keep it behind closed doors, no matter what is going on. because that just added to the whole situation post-match. And I mean, the atmosphere yesterday, it was heavy, mate. It was palpable. You could feel it in the air. It's the heaviest I've felt it there for a while. And I came out of that game. I'm not surprised that you was upset afterwards, because I came out of that game, mate, I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, because being in that environment for 90 minutes, it could not continue. We could not continue. Something
Absolutely.
had to change. And I think, I like to put my opinion out there on Twitter. And I said, what's the minimum that has to happen between now and Leicester? And I think the very bare minimum you could do would be to sack the manager. It was a minimum requirement. So, to be honest, I wasn't that surprised when it came today. And I do think, we'll probably come to it a little bit later, but I do think it's come from above. I think they've cottoned on to what's going on, and they can't have that. I think it was worrying what we were becoming, because you can't have it. You can't have it, mate.
Absolutely. Jason, following up on that, mate.
Absolutely. I can't really talk too much on the game because I didn't go, because I had family commitments. And in all fairness, I didn't miss a great deal. With regards to Gary O'Neill, obviously this has been coming for a long time, as we know, and he just couldn't continue. And in the end, I was wondering what it would take for this manager to get sacked. Clearly, for the last few weeks, they've had to be doing their due diligence behind the scenes and obviously trying to find a replacement. And the only worrying thing about this guy that's been mentioned is, one, he's got quite a long CV, but if he's going to come in as an impact manager and make a difference, that's great. But equally, he's clearly not the club's first choice. That's a fact, because we hear that they've spoke to other managers, but we just couldn't carry on with O'Neill. And I think more than anything, more than the results, which speak for themselves, it's results business, but the discipline was it's just incomprehensible. So you can see the cool heads in that team, your Dawsons, people like Guedes, Sarabia. Now, I know these aren't playing week in, week out, but these are cool-headed people. And then you've got Lamina running around like an idiot against West Ham. Then you've got Cunha, who I expected so much more from, because he seems a nice guy, pulling people's glasses off, picking on the big guy. And then you've got Ain't Nori as well. Now, if they're behaving like that after the match, they're making rash decisions during the match, because people's characters can't just change like that, in my opinion. So all I'm saying is these aren't cool-headed people. That, yes, they're quality players, but we need cool-headed people on the pitch in this situation. And I think the positive about this potential manager that might be coming in is that I think he will instill that discipline back into the team, because whatever GON was saying to them at half-time and at full-time and on the training pitch clearly was not working. And I think this is why now it definitely needs a change of face. It needs someone to come in with fresh ideas, with a disciplined approach to save our season. I still feel it's too late. I still feel it's a massive, massive job. I still feel it's a job for somebody who's got Premier League experience. But equally, we are where we are. And, we've had that many people allegedly turn the job down. It isn't a very attractive proposition. This is why this decision should have been made, 4 or 5 weeks ago, in my opinion, at the earliest.
I think that's good points in what you say then, but I'm just wondering, I know that they say they've approached and people have turned around, whether it's finally struck home and there has been a change of shift, because by all accounts, this Victor Pereira, here he is, by the way, this Victor Pereira guy, he is a Mendes client. Now, we do know that the club had moved very far away from George Mendes and Gestitute with a lot of their dealings. So obviously, it seems to me like there's a desperation that they've gone back to George and said, look, George, you need to help us out of a hole here. And they've gone back cap in hand, perhaps.
Or Dave, I'm not the biggest fan of George Mendes, just from different perspectives. But what I will say is there's also a logic there, because they've tried it by not doing the Mendes route, and it clearly has not worked. They've tried doing it on the cheap, and it doesn't work. I'm really pleased. Matt Hobbs gets a lot of unfair criticism in this, Perhaps so on giving, playing a part in giving Gary O'Neill a 4-year deal. I mean, that was just ridiculous. For a rookie manager to give him a 4-year deal for a Premier League club is, just, in my opinion,
should have been a 2-year deal.
Absolutely. But we've exploited the South American market, and it does seem to be working to a degree. But I think, and I did say this, and I've been saying this for weeks, that Wolves have got 2 budgets. We've got a budget if we was in the top half of the table or 13th or above, which would have been spending in January. And now we're in the shit budget, which we're going to be delving into. And that's where we're obviously going to be relying on Mendes.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. But the problem with this in our scenario, Gary O'Neill obviously clearly is not, the only person to blame in this. This has been this has been going on for like 3 years. Since Nuno left, it's just been getting gradually worse and worse and worse.
Yep.
Hobbs has had a lot of praise. He's had a lot of praise on this particular channel, especially getting us out the FFP mess. Last year, Gary came in. I mean, I've seen someone just on here a few weeks ago. We're all praising Gary O'Neill. Well, for weeks, people have been moaning about him. Maybe middle of last year.
We're allowed to change our opinions.
Pardon?
We're allowed to change our opinions.
Well, you're going to 3 wins in 28 games.
3 wins in 28 games. Over 100 goals in his tenure. We're second from bottom in the league. We've shipped in 40 goals this season. 40 goals. I haven't even had a pig in a blanket yet, and we've shipped in 40 goals. We've got to be, Dave. We've got to be seriously realistic here. And listen, the culture in this club is set from the top. And yes, Gary O'Neill is the man on the training ground, is the man that picks the team. He didn't know his best 11. We could see that. Whatever he was saying on the training ground wasn't working. So these set pieces are just, how we defend them is just ridiculous. He even alluded to that in his final interview. And he was saying, I don't know what more I can do. He was scratching his head like us. So whatever he was saying wasn't working.
Basically, yesterday he was like, I'm blaming the players. He was like, I'm blaming the players. Yeah,
I don't blame him because he's got to protect his own reputation. He knew he was toast. He knew he was a dead man walking. But equally, I think really he needs a bit of a break and then possibly a championship club. I think that's where he's really got to cut his teeth, because to be given jobs at the bottom of the Premier League, at your Bournemouth and your Wolves, he did a good job last season. But equally, at the start of the season, particularly, how much of this was Lop's influence? Because he left us with 3 days to go with the season. I'm sure there was still some influence there. But now we've seen that Gary O'Neill's had a pre-season under him and it just hasn't worked. We can't blame the fixtures because we've got this run of games coming up. But what you can do is, there is mitigating circumstances. And one of them is we've sold £200 million worth of talent. We haven't replaced key positions. But once again, this then does fall on Hobbs and Shee for not getting a centre-half in.
Absolutely.
Dave, can I just bring in, just on Hobbs? Yeah. I just wondered where you two think, where does this leave Hobbs? Because he was culpable for giving that 4-year contract extension. Furthermore, GON was his man. He's been in charge of transfers that haven't, in the past, have been successful, but this summer now doesn't look successful at all. So he wasn't able to recruit what we needed this summer. And I think with GON being sacked, that's a massive slap in the face of Hobbs. And if you're going to have Mendes rocking back up in his Ferrari saying, I'm in charge now, where does that leave Hobbs, do we think?
Well, if there's any common sense in this, really, they shouldn't have just pulled from. I mean, a lot of the fans moaned about Mendes being too involved, and he did have what was too much, but he did bring us Ruben Neves, Joe Martinho, Patricio, all of those. Okay, there's ones that went wrong, but he has got. He can bring gems, and it's all about the Mendes merry-go-round. But what there should be is a middle ground where we do use Mendes and his contacts and the influence that he can bring to helping us. Look at what he's done for Nuno at Forest now. And then, but you also, I don't think there's anything wrong with tapping the South American market, and we've brought in some Joe Gomez and people like that. It's great. You have to have a mixture of everything. It isn't about having one or the other, to me.
You see, this is the grey area because Mendes, as we clearly know, he's not the self-sustainable model. Is it?
Well, to be honest, I don't know whether you agree, but they've got to bin that self-contained, self-sustainable model. Yeah. It's a really, really admirable aim to be able to do that, but you've got to do it from a position of strength. Manchester City, okay, I know they've got 115 charges, and I know they're the whipping boys of the league now, even more of a whipping boys than us, which is quite laughable at the moment, you know, and they lost again today. But like, you know, and you look at Chelsea and all that, but like Manchester City, they invested. They've got themselves to there, and you can be self-sustainable when you've got that much talent, but you've got to get to the point to be able to do it. And they're sort of like, we're doing really well, but after the pandemic and maybe there's political changes, Nuno, everything went. It's all gone, well, we're in a good safe position. We're like 7th mid-top table. We're in a good position. We've got a good squad. We've got a lot of value. We'll be all right. And if you keep saying, yeah, we can sell these and we can bring in some youngsters and they'll be good in 2 or 3 years. They might well be. We saw like Pedro Neto develop. We've seen players that have developed. Yerson Mosquera, when he came into defence, he looked really, really good. But the planning, you've got to think about worst case scenario. It's like every one of us, all the Wolves fans in the summer is like, we sold Kilman. No one's complaining about that. 40,000, 40 million. Kilman's family's in London. Good deal for us. Make a load of money. Yes,
great for everyone.
Really well in La Liga. But we're going to play a back 4. But what happens if you want to play a back 3? What happens if Dawson's groin goes? What happens if you have a long-term injury? You've got to plan for these sort of things.
Craig Dawson's 2 years younger than you, right? So realistically, he was never going to last a full season. So why we've let players like Hugo Bueno go out on loan? And why
he was ripping it up for Feyenoord in the Champions League. And don't put a recall option in January.
I mean, why we've let this defence go to the fragility it's got, shipping 40 goals in, is just ridiculous. And that does lie on the football people in the club, 100%.
Absolutely. And to me, it's a blind arrogance in some ways that we know what we do and we're going to be okay. And, you know, Hobbs has done a lot of good things since he's come in. You've got to thank him for the mess he got us out with PSR and stuff. But in some ways, I think, I mean, Lewis will probably have something to say about that when he comes on in second half. But in some ways, he's got lucky as well in a lot of situations. And Joe Gomez, brilliant signing. Andre is another one, which is where it's all wrong. We don't bring in a central defender, but we bring in a midfielder from Brazil who is a very, very, very good midfielder.
And a goalkeeper for 10 million when we've got King and Bentley sitting on the bench anyway.
Exactly. And Andre has caused more problems than it solved, because it's like, we bought him, let's try and get him into the team, and it's affected the balance. And then you've got Tommy Doyle, who to me was the best player on the pitch yesterday. When he came on, he's got fire in him. He has.
Yeah.
The pass that he did for Kuna over the top of the that defender, unbelievable.
He cares, Dave. He cares.
He does. And we should be building.
Sorry to interrupt, Dave. There's going to be players on that pitch who don't care as much as other players. They're not all the same. They can give it the old, I'm going to give it 110% today. It's not like that, Dave. Not everybody will care as much as Tommy Doyle. Other people, other players will already be eyeing moves in January. Will I be eyeing moves in May? Because sadly, with money comes mercenary. And a lot of these players will be like deserting rats on a ship. They don't care for the badge. So we have got to strengthen this team and get players in who, and I understand you can get your head turned for money, but we need some Tommy Doyles as well. We need some calm-headed, level-headed, strong-minded professionals with discipline.
Yeah, and this is what surprised me. You know, Kuna is a very nice guy, and there's a lot of very good people, but he's very, very emotional. And I don't know whether it's the Latin Americans or all that sort of stuff. It's quite emotional, but you've got to keep calm. And
Dave, if I was going to fight you now, I'd flipping rag you around that Christmas tree, 2 foot. Yeah, I wouldn't go for your glasses. That's wrong.
Exactly.
No, on a serious note, I can't believe these players behave like this in the Premier League. In the Premier League, why do you think they all talk like this? Because there's hundreds of cameras in the ground. When I say hundreds of cameras, Sky have got 20 cameras. VAR have only got 1 at certain grounds. But then you've got everyone with camera phones. So how can he go up behind this guy who's clearly early 50s drop a flipping elbow into him, spin him around and rip his glasses off him. And if you watch that clip in slow motion, you've got Matt Doherty to the one side, you've got this Ipswich lad on the other side. And when he goes for his glasses and rips them off, everyone, like, they're that shocked. You see the brawl just stops. They just go. Everyone goes, what just happened?
I know, mate. And this is
mind-blowing.
This is what I'm saying. Look, it's a team that's
crazy.
That's got used to been losing a long time. There's frustrations. They're frustrated. You can understand that. But like players of the opposition, I don't know what something's been said, but they're going to try and get into their heads. They're going to try and get into their heads, and they've got to be better than that.
And it's happened since time. You know, what will you do if you're playing against a player like Craig Bellamy? You're going to give him some needle. You're going to wind him up. You're going to get him fired. And they're going to know the players they can wind up, because it's evident we've got a team of maybe great players, but there's a few characters there that can crack. And the opposition will play on these weaknesses. I just think it's ridiculous to show your weaknesses. Get in the dressing room, say what you want, the inner sanctum, get it all out. Don't do it on the pitch, especially after the final whistle. I ain't know he's got a red card.
I know. And he's going to have a one. He's going
to get a ban.
And I won't be surprised.
We could get relegated because of these decisions.
I know, and I won't be surprised if Matthias Cunha is going to get a 2 or 3 game ban after the back of that.
He'll get a retrospective ban, definitely.
How can he not get banned for that?
And I think the worst part about it is Lamina was the week before, and it's the following game, and it's happened again. And I think that's the disbelief. It happened last week. We saw Sarr, and then it happened again. And so you look at it as fans, you just think it's indicative of everything that's rotten and wrong. And this is why my reaction after the game, I know it was emotional. I was saying it needs a circuit break. The only way to stop this is a complete circuit break, circuit break and reset. And you need a man to come in that's going to have a bit of gravitas that can get these players. Now, according to form with young Victor, here he is again. He was asked recently to define his approach in an interview with Marsa. He said he's a coach who is very focused on tactics and strategy and details. As for me personally, I'm very demanding. I like my team to be aggressive with and without the ball. I like to be well-played game for me. Winning is not enough. You have to win with merit and quality. I like the art of football. It's an art. Coaching is creating something, expressing my personality, but at the same time, trying to stimulate the footballs in their roles. I've also, in terms of like his man management, he has had public fallout with James Rodriguez and Messi also in the coaching career, but he has won 4 league titles, with 2 with Porto, 2 with Olympiacos. And he has enough.
He ain't winning nothing with us, Dave. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah, he's said to be very strict in his discipline, but he's got an impressive emotional intelligence alongside his ability to also speak English. So, what we really want is someone who's Nuno-esque to walk in, that has commands when he walks into the dressing room. Everyone listens, but also knows how to put an arm around the shoulder and gives a kick up the backside. Because you run a business, Jason. You know, you run a business. You have staff. You know, some staff some people need an arm around the shoulder to get them motivated. Some people need a kick up the backside, and you have to, as a manager, you have to know which is which.
Man management is so important. And there's an argument with Gary O'Neill, which I've heard a few people say now, that some of these players were overcoached. And, you know, there was a lot of talented players in that squad. There is, a lot of talented players in that squad, and we should nowhere be in this position. But I just think there was a bit of an overcomplication somewhere along the line, because they clearly did not understand the instructions that were given them. Because there's a lot of seasoned professionals in that team now who've got 4 or 5 years Premier League experience, but it just was not working.
Well, you mentioned, Jace, man management earlier, and you was talking about Tommy Doyle. You look at Tommy Doyle and look at that moment when he saved Gary's bacon against Brighton.
Absolutely.
4 versus 1, dug in deep, got us a point out of nowhere. He should have grabbed Tommy Doyle round his neck and said, my boy, you are, Tommy. You're never coming out of that team again. He started the next game and then he dropped him again.
Yeah.
And what did he do massively wrong in that game that he started him? Nothing. What did he want Tommy Doyle to do?
Tommy Doyle really hasn't put a foot wrong.
And he took it away. And that's
But
the
he's got too
failing.
many
That's
people.
what he started in the end. Yeah.
He's got
He
too
hasn't
many
put his
people.
trust in someone.
Absolutely. But he's got too many people to cram into that midfield. So Tommy Doyle, clearly, he's one of them players who, you know, he's not happy to play a bit part, but he ain't going to moan about it. And Gary O'Neill probably knows that. So he's got his favourites. And that's the way I see it, because Tommy Doyle has done nothing to not be in that team.
He's got fight, he's got passion, he gives 100%. And I've got to say, who impressed me yesterday as well when he came on, and I can't believe I'm talking about the same player that I talked about 2 or 3 years ago, Gonçalo Guedes.
Mate, great player. Dave, great.
He's got hunger as well. He fought and was battling and thing. You know, I was impressed when he came on. He
calm.
Right pass for the set for Cunha's goal, and for 15 minutes we were rolling. We were on fire, but we didn't finish him off. And then for the love of God, I don't know why the last 5 minutes we just went back into let's hold on to a point, because it was coming as soon. I don't know about you guys. Well, obviously, Jason, you didn't see it live, but George. As soon as that went out for a corner in the 93rd minute,
I know.
Oh my God!
Right. The way it was headed out from where I was sitting, it was 50-50 all the time, whether it was going to go throw in or corner, and it was like it was in slow motion as it was coming across, and it just went over onto that corner side, and my head just went in my hands because I already knew, mate, and it was fractions. It was fractions as soon as it went for the corner.
Did you see the Ipswich lad after the match? Harry Mansell, I believe. I retweeted it, but it's disappeared. The Ipswich lad, the player, had an interview on the pitch after the match with someone. I think it was just filmed on a camera phone, and he was talking through the goal, and he said, "Yeah, took my shirt off, knee slide." But when he talked through the goal, he went, "Yeah, couldn't believe it. I was unmarked."
He didn't even have to move.
Right, if you watch the replay, he just stands in one spot. Exactly, Dave. He stands in one spot.
Last minute of the game, and he's got a free header.
And
he's planted.
If you look at Match of the Day stats last night, we are double the number of goals conceded from set pieces against anyone else in the league. I think the next nearest is Southampton on 8. We're on 16. And if you count penalties, that's 20 goals from set pieces. It's crazy. Right. I'm going to ask you another question. We're going to go on to what needs to be done in terms of backing the manager in a second. But let's just say, look, Gary O'Neill, let's just have a little moment to reflect. Gary O'Neill, he came in with 3 days' notice. We did have some good times with him. He's a nice enough lad. He's got the sack now, quite rightly. We don't want to, obviously, any vitriol. No one went really vitriol in it. They were angry about some of the stuff. But just give me just a little nice memory of your time with Gary O'Neill that sticks out for you, Jason.
I think the bigger one for me is definitely West Brom away. I just think it was a good performance. We did remain calm and collected throughout that game. And, you know, there were several memories. You know, we beat some big sides last season, and that is full credit to Gary O'Neill. And it was nice to see him doing his fist bumps to the South Bank. And, you know, there are some good memories, but it just couldn't continue. But for me, the West Brom game, I thought was a professional performance, despite what was going on in the stands, despite the gravity of the game in terms of, you know, your fiercest rivals up the road. And I think that was a really good performance. And it's important that we do remember the positives. And you've made a great point there, Dave. I'm so glad that the crowd didn't give him full vitriol. He had pelters online. He ain't stupid. He knows that. But the crowd, it wasn't, you know, yes, he's had a few boos and a few rings of, you know, you don't know what you're doing and all that. That happens. But they didn't go. There wasn't hounding him and hammering him every game. And I think that's very important, because you heard it. We want Fosun out at the end of the game and if it does turn, and if these results keep continuing, they're going to find themselves. There's nothing we can do about it.
They were shouting about Jeff as well, but Jeff wasn't at the game yesterday, mate.
Oh, of course he wasn't. He was in Portugal.
Probably advised not to go.
Doing this deal. Yeah.
No, he was, from what I understand, he was advised not to go, so he wasn't actually in the stand when they were shouting it. George, before you go on, I do want to say a big thank you to Will Farmer, who's just become our latest Always Wolves team member. I will put the link to our private members Discord group later on after the show. So hopefully if you can get your Discord, you can come and join into the conversation. We talk about everything every single day on the members group. So thank you ever so much for supporting and becoming our latest member of the channel. George, over to you. Your highlights or favourite moment, memory of Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, I think, what is it kind of a shame, I think, is the fact that because it's gone on for too long, he's been kept for longer than he should. There a lot of good grace has been lost, I think. If it had gone earlier, maybe against Brentford, I think I would have been able to hold on to a little more of the positivity, which I think would have been good for us and for Gary ultimately. I think he's damaged his reputation actually staying on this long. But yeah, I actually liked the Spurs at home win when Sarabia scored that amazing goal in the last minute. We scored two in the last minute and beat Spurs. And that's when I really believed in him then, I didn't believe in him.
It's a great shout. Great shout.
Started to believe in him and that we could do something, and I'd never had before. So I'm gonna go for that moment because it's mad because that was probably only a year ago, but we had that little period where it's like we were never beaten, and we had these late turnarounds, and I thought, you know what? I think he's onto something. I've just seen that comment. Yeah.
Mate, that's got to be. We're going to have comment of the night now. It's going to be a new feature here on the channel, and HGA Boxing. That is right up there. Watching O'Neill beat level 127 on Candy Crush on his iPad against Ipswich was class. That's a quality comment.
Can I just add on that, Dave, quickly on a serious point? Yeah. I know he's always been with his iPad, but I tell you what, he wasn't behind that iPad anywhere near as much last season, if I remember rightly, and that's just become like a hiding place, hasn't it? Which I think's been used against him a bit. But I don't remember him being behind it that much last season. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, that kind of became a little bit embarrassing.
I think that's. I think that Tottenham game as well. We played so well that game. Went behind really early. We were brilliant the whole time through, and then that's the way we finished. And you can, at the time it was like, this is what we want, but it didn't happen, did it? Just to let you know, guys, if you do want to join in the conversation. And you're on our YouTube channel, which I hope a lot of you will come on and support and subscribe. If you just hit the subscribe button, you can join in the conversation. We are live across YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter X. We have 1,240 people watching live across all things. So absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
Amazing. Now, guys, Jason and George, what happens now if, say, whoever it is, whether it's Victor Pereira or whoever it is that comes in, what's the thing for you that the board have to do? What do the board have to do to back the new manager? What would you like to see happen?
They have to swallow their pride and accept that if it's Vitor Pereira coming in, they need to accept that he knows a damn sight more about football and how to get this squad playing than they do. So they need to accept that he's now going to run exactly like Lopetegui. He's going to come in and run the football philosophy side of things. And Mendes is going to go and sign him the players that he needs. And they're going to sit back. They're going to hope they don't lose their jobs for their sakes. Although I've got my doubts. I think they might. I think there's an argument that Fosun have overruled here. And I think Hobbs and maybe even Shee's jobs are on the line. I really do, because I think you mentioned earlier that we need to have a middle ground between Mendes and like in-house. We've seen the current in-house setup have a go themselves. We saw Mendes have a go himself, and let's be honest, it wasn't financially the best, but it worked and it got success on the pitch. We've seen the in-house have a go, and it's been an utter abject failure. So that in-house team is probably going to at least need an addition, whether that's an Ashworth or something coming in.
You know what, George? I'm glad you pointed out that, because see, Dan Ashworth.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was at, was at Brighton. I think he was at Newcastle, sporting director, CEO type of guy. Went to United. Apparently his son's in our academy. He lives in
Tetnall.
Lichfield.
Tetnall, I believe, or he was living in Tetnall.
Yeah, yes. So he's like, to me, if I was the owners, I'd be wanting to get him because he's done a good job a lot where he's going. He's local.
He has, Dave, but the problem is he's just going to come in and he's going to make demands, and Fosun do not want that. They don't want to surround themselves with people making demands on them. This is why, look, this Pereira guy seems to be getting a lot of momentum at the minute. So that looks to be the man who's going to take charge. And I'm only going on, I'm not in the know at all. I'm only going by what I'm seeing on social media. So I think it's the man. So what they need to get someone in. The first thing that they need to do, that manager needs to come in and he needs to sort that defence out. Stop leaking goals. I'm not concerned about us going forward. They need to sort that defence. That's the most important thing. Get that defence sorted. Stop leaking goals. If we don't concede, we're not going to lose. Stop conceding the goals we do in the manner we do and get that discipline back. Build from the back. And they've also got to back him in January. They have to, because if they give him these tools and just say, right, we're not going to spend anything in January, we're not going to get a centre half in, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, it ain't going to work. So they've got to back this man in January, whoever it is.
I 100% agree. Just before we move on, we've just got another new member that's joined the Always Wolves team, Paul Steed. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel. Again, on the community tab, after the show, we will put into the members area the Discord link so you can get involved with the conversation in between games on there as well. So thank you. And if any of you other people are interested, it's on the join button. There's 4 different levels. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Jason. A lot of what you're saying about they don't want things, but really, if they've got any sense, they want these type of people. They're winners. They've proven individuals that have a massive contact book, that know how to run a club, and they need someone like that. To me, Jeff,
what they need, Dave, and what they want are 2 completely different things.
Oh, yeah, I agree, but they need this is what needs to happen, isn't it? Really,
this is why I think I think it will be this Vitor Pereira, and this is why I think it's such an interesting appointment, because he did an interview. I've read something online today. He did an interview where he said he's openly admitted that he went to Saudi Arabia and he went to China just to earn the big money. So when he takes jobs in the future, he doesn't have to answer to any boards, chairman, executives. So if you employ him, you're employing him on his terms. So yes, we know that Jeff Shee's always been, from the outside looking in, it seems like he calls the shots and that's it. But then why would we now be appointing a manager who's openly said, I come in and do it my way. So if you want me, it's my way. That to me says that there's a change in strategy going on a little bit here. So whether that's the full work, but
that'd be a good thing. That'd be a really good thing if there is a change in strategy. But also, we also know that Jeff Shee makes promises, i.e. Lopetegui, and doesn't fulfil these promises. So that's the other thing. So they've got to get someone in now. They've got to get a manager in. Well, they've got to make a difference. They've got to show that they're doing change. But I still believe this has got to be completely on Fosun's terms. That's the way I'm looking at it, because that's the way it's been for as long as I can remember, since Nuno.
But I think, Jace, there might be a distinction between Fosun's terms and Jeff Shee's terms now. Because if someone has looked in and said, what on earth is going on there? This is bringing the club into disrepute, right into the Championship. The value of our assets going to drop 250 million. Who's to say they haven't interjected and said, what should we do? What should we do, Mendes?
If they're going to interject and do that, then Shee's got to be the fall guy, because we're going to go through manager after manager after manager when Jeff Shee, who's supposedly calling the shots. I don't see why he's bulletproof in any of this. And I'm not saying you're saying he's bulletproof, but I don't see why he's. If Fosun are going to make big key decisions, they need to start with Jeff Shee. Because
I'm saying he's been put into an appointed position. He's been put. He doesn't own the club. He's been put into an appointed position, hasn't he? And who's to say that Fosun haven't looked at it and said it's not working? It's not working under his
that's
tenure.
what I mean. So no, I agree. So
I think we agree.
No,
I think you're both kind of saying the same thing in a different thing. I think the thing with Jeff, right? Everyone know he runs the shop, but mate, at the end of the day, if it like what George is saying, if it's like Chairman Guo or Fosun have just gone, this is going to look really bad for us. The Premier. I mean, it's almost a bit like what Sutty was saying. The second things start to look bad for them, that they'll shit themselves and think we've got to do something. And
this is why they've got
the Premier League is a global brand, and we've seen in 3 successive weeks incidents in games with players, and that's put the attention on Wolves, not for competitive or glory reasons, for just basically saying this team's just crazy. And so everyone's looking at it. So maybe that has made an impact potentially. I
just don't see how Jeff Shee can continue to make the decisions that are being made. And yes, there's a lot coming from the top, but I just can't see how he always walks away scot-free. Yes, he gets some grief off the fans, but equally.
Do you know what, Jason? We won't know the answer to that for probably a little while. We do know that 3 or 4 years ago, they were going to bring in someone else, and Jeff was just going to move upstairs. The fact of the matter is, Jeff is there to do a job and raise money and stuff like that, and he's like focused. He's much more interested in esports and all of those sorts of things, and Fosun Sports. And Jeff can go and concentrate on that. For me, we need a CEO to come in, someone that's going to come in that place, and Jeff can just do Jeff things. And a CEO is going to concentrate on Wolves, and that's their entire job. And maybe
they're not going to bring in someone like Dan Ashworth. That ain't going to happen. They're not going to bring in someone like Dan Ashworth. That would just completely ruin the apple cart for Fosun. They're not going to bring in someone like that, are they? Fosun like to be in 100% control. We see that. We know that. That's how they do things, and that's how they want it to be done. This is why we haven't really got any faith in their next managerial appointments, have we? Let's be honest. Because now, they're not working.
Well, absolutely not. No, I mean, everyone's going to be concerned. But if they do bring in this Victor Ferreira, for me, it's a much better call than Steve Cooper or
100%.
the Albion manager.
Ferreira is clearly a Mendes. It's a Mendes decision. That is.
Yeah.
If we'd have got Steve Cooper, then that's their decision. It's not going to work. This is clearly a Mendes decision, isn't it? So I've got a little faith in it, and because
bear in mind, Matt Hobbs obviously had a massive swaying influence in bringing in Gary O'Neill. Matt Hobbs won't have a swaying influence in bringing Priory in.
Exactly.
No.
100%.
Absolutely. Really good interest in there. Right. I just want to obviously close this half of the show. It's been incredibly fantastic discussions and insight from both of you as well. But looking ahead to Leicester now, they're hoping to get him in place. I reckon all being well within the players had the day off today. They will be back in tomorrow, I'm guessing. They will hope, I would imagine, to have this deal done, someone in place within the next sort of 24, 48 hours, ideally. Say Victor Pereira comes in, or they've got the manager, going in. Do you think we'll get a new manager bounce at Leicester and it'll shake things up? And what's your thoughts? What's your prediction for that? To me, it's a must-win game. We have to beat Leicester because we're 5 points from safety, and we cannot afford to lose that game for definite.
I think if we lose to Leicester, mate, we go 8 points behind Leicester. And if you look at the big picture of the season, it's between, I think Southampton are gone now, obviously. It's 2 out of 3 from us, Ipswich and Leicester. That's how I see it realistically. So if we lose to Leicester, we've got 8 points to make up. I mean, even if we draw, we keep it at 5. I actually think it's a must not lose. Actually, I don't think we can let them go 8 points clear. I think we're going to struggle to win the game with everything going on. But I think if we manage to get Vitor in Vitor we trust, mates, then I think what he's going to do, he'll go in the week and he'll say, right, who are the professionals in this club? Yeah. And he'll play those players. And I think we'll see Tommy Doyle in there. We'll see Craig Dawson in there. I think Cunha's going to be banned. Ait Nouri's banned. But I think he'll come in straight away. Yeah, his hand's going to be forced on those ones. But I think it'll be. I think if we get him in, we ain't going to be seeing anything like what we've seen in recent weeks. I think it will be just an absolutely turgid game of football, and I think he'll try and get out of there with a 0-0, to be honest. And I think we might well just do that. And I don't think that would be the worst result ever. And it would just go to show that, look, with the right manager in charge, we can tighten things up. And I think if we do tighten things up, then we've got a platform to build on. So I reckon you'd probably be seeing a defence. You'd probably stick with a 5 at the back and be going with like Semedo, and then maybe Dawson, even getting Doherty in at left back, and just leaning on those pros for the next few games, and then obviously get his reinforcements in January. But I think we'll see a very cagey game. And I think in many ways we've been looking for a cagey, tight game for a while, and we're just incapable of doing that. So if I see that, I'll actually have even more faith, even if we don't win. If it's 0-0 and it's nasty and it's terrible football, I'm not going to mind, because if we can close a game down, I think we've got every chance of moving forward, especially with the reinforcements in Jan. So I just hope he gets through the door and as soon as possible, because every little day could make that difference. If he comes in Tuesday versus Wednesday or Thursday, it's an extra couple of days on the training field, isn't it? And it could make all the difference, especially with setting up the defences and sorting out them set pieces, mate. Because I think that's the first thing he's going to come in and do.
You're going 0-0.
I'm going to go for 0-0. Yeah, score prediction 0-0.
Would we take a draw? Yes, we would, on the basis that we've lost 4 out of the last 5. But realistically, we are 19th in the Premier League, right? We've got a horrible run of games coming up from Boxing Day through to February. We need points. So they're all must-win games, because if we get the draw here and a draw there, and we've got to get this new manager in as soon as possible, and we've got to get wins, because otherwise we're going into the Championship, and that is the reality.
What's your score prediction?
That is, I can't be any more blunt than that. That is the reality. That's all I can say. And we've got to beat these teams around us. It's all right beating Man U, Chelsea, Man City, Spurs, whatever. It's inconsequential to us. We've got to beat the teams around us, and we're not. So Leicester,
we've got to win that mini league.
3 points. We've got
to win. We've got to win the mini league.
But we would take a draw. I'll get George's point exactly. Listen, 0-0, clean sheet. There's loads of positives, but equally, it's not really going to make that much difference on the league table. We've got to get points. We've got to get them fast, because we are going into a horrendous run of games that we've had at the start of the season, and we are going to be in big trouble, Dave.
What's your score prediction, Jason?
3-0 Leicester.
All that talk, mate.
Dave, he cracks me up, man.
It's after 9 o'clock. We dog shit. 3-0 Leicester. I'm backing it. There you go.
Right, and George, Jason, absolutely. Jason, look, I know Olivia's not very well, so sending lots of love to you and to you.
Olivia's just said 4-0 Leicester. She knows more than me.
And George, thanks ever so much for coming on and giving us your thoughts, mate. Cheers. We'll watch this with interest. I think the next extra time will be very, very interesting next week. God bless to you both. Always Wolves.
Always Wolves.
Cheers,
thank you,
mate.
guys. Thank you.
Always Wolves. See you in a bit.
See you in a bit, mate. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant contributions there from Lord Jason and, of course, our senior writer on alwayswolves.co.uk. Please do go on to alwayswolves.co.uk to check out all of that. That concludes the first half of the show. We've got 1,286 of you watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, join in the chat. And whilst I introduce the next guests, let me know, if you wouldn't mind, where in the world you are watching from at the moment. And thank you for our 2 new members as well. So we have coming on to the second half of the show. He's not been very well recently, but here he is. He's feeling a lot better. It's Cheerful Chris. How you doing, mate? Glad to see you yesterday, mate, and glad that you're feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, it was nice to get out in the fresh air yesterday, because I've been a little bit on the rough side, but I'm perking up now. The weekend's getting better and better as we go along, so I'm happy for a few days at least.
Well, it's great to see you happy. It makes me happy to see that frown turned upside down, mate. Also joining us tonight. Great to have him back. Always gives us some fantastic insights and thoughts. We have young Lewis. Hi, mate. How you doing?
Hi, Dave. I'm very happy tonight, to be honest. Much happier than yesterday, anyway.
Mate, I think we're all feeling that. I was so emotional yesterday with my mom and my dad, and what happened, and I'm in a lot better. I think I was in a really bad place mentally yesterday because, like, I was thinking, but I'm in a much better place today. I've had a good day. We've had some positive news. Not that we want anyone ever to lose the job, but more so for the reset for the club. And it's good to see that you're happy. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say about this as we go through. I'm just banging some of the locations we've got. With Valencia, we've got Ireland watching, we got Dublin there, Stourbridge, we got Germany calling, Tasmania, Worcestershire, Lincoln, Wolverhampton, Auckland, New Zealand, Bedfordshire, East Sussex, Broyley Hill, Spain, good old Treacle, Halesowen, Kent, Cannock, the Channel Islands, Oswestry, New Zealand. It's mad. Ontario, Canada, Ohio in America, Biggleswade, Cornwall. I mean, it's Newquay, Melbourne. Then we've got Pendleton, Stafford. Oh, absolutely. Saudi.
Dave, I noticed you took the easy route and said Ohio without pronouncing the name of that place.
What was the other? What was the other place?
He said something and it just said Ohio, but you didn't.
Well, everyone knows where Ohio is, so
yeah, but it was. You just stick it out.
We've got Michigan, USA. We've got Lisbon, Smethwick, Tamworth. It's just great to see the Wolves community around the world. We've got Dartmouth, Devon, Paignton. Trying to give you all a shout out here. Newport, South Wales, Tipton, Dudley. And it's just amazing to boot, watching in Bexhill, Kidderminster, all over the place. I'm just seeing all of these. Atlanta, USA. My goodness me. I'm just spinning through. We've got Turkey, Gothenburg, Sweden, Norway. Oh, it's amazing. And the centre of the known universe, we've got Gordon and Joe in Bilston. Absolutely fantastic. Right, and I've my final guest tonight joining us. And guys, if you do want to come on, there is a link. If you want to come on into the green room and have your say in the link before, we do have returning tonight. It's going to be so interesting to hear what all you guys have got to say. But we're joined by Super Sooty as well with his, what is it? Oh, is that a whiskey, mate?
Glenfiddich.
He's got a Glenfiddich. He's happy. He's an happy man tonight.
You go steady. You go steady.
Come on. Let's see that smile, mate.
Don't you start getting carried away and have cocktails, mate.
No.
Mate, how you feeling, pal?
Yesterday was a bad day, wasn't it, Dave?
I know all about, man. It was really bad.
Obviously for you on a more important, it was bad for you, but I mean, football terms, I think that was one of the darkest days I've seen at our place for a long time. Not just football, but how the place just descended into chaos, and it shows that it is a chaotic place at the moment from top to bottom. The football club's in a mess. It's not nice to see. I don't really like coming on here, Dave. I've come on here for 3 years now, and it's been the same thing all the time.
Oh, we like you coming on, Sooty.
Yeah, I like to come on, but wouldn't it be nice to come on and have times like Nuno times again, and come on here and be positive without the veil of darkness that descends with an ownership that we've got that I don't trust. I haven't trusted for 3 years. And you can blame Gary O'Neill all you like. Tactically, he was inept, but he was employed by these people, Dave. They've got to take they've got to take the flak for employing him and giving him a 4-year contract.
Fair comment, mate. Fair comment.
And the thing is, Dave, any decent owner would have given him a 1-year rolling contract, but not these idiots, especially our head of recruitment, who's obviously brokered that deal. But
I'll have my say quickly if these two don't mind, and then I'll shut up and let them have theirs.
Go on then.
Self-sustainability, Dave. I heard a comment on the radio today and I thought that's absolutely bang on. And I can't for the life of me remember what pundit said it, but they were talking about Wolves and they said one bad window of self-sustainability puts you bang in trouble. Now, you can't just wing self-sustainability. Right? Brighton don't wing it, Dave. What Brighton do is they have a plan. But they have a plan to bring in players that are cheap, that they sell big, but these players that they come in, they're ready. They're not for the future. They're ready.
Good point.
Okay?
Again.
So they come in and they play them. We don't do that. We do it differently. We buy them. I can't even say we buy them mega cheap because we're buying players between 15 and 20 million for the future. And then we're loaning them out and things like this. It's such poor planning. It is so poor. And now that poor planning has left us in a position where I think if we don't win next week and that opens up to 8-9 points between us and Leicester, I think we're down. So I think we have to win next week. It's not must not lose. It is must win. And we've got to average from these 22 games left, 1.3 points per game. Now, 1.3 points per game is sort of 10th, 11th position in the league form. What I watched yesterday for half a game was absolutely abysmal. Now, that isn't down to Fosun. That's down to a football manager who believes that he's something special, which he clearly wasn't. It was just a shambles from start to finish. We had a 15-minute period where we could have scored 4, but under his tenure, we were as likely to concede as we were to score, and that don't never work. You've got to have a solid basis, and you've got to be solid. If you don't concede, you don't lose. It's simple. It's such a simple game, but this idiot has made it so difficult for this group of players to understand. They clearly didn't believe in him. Well, I know for a fact they didn't believe in him. They gave up on him weeks ago. This man should have gone after Brentford. There's been absolute turmoil in that dressing room. Turmoil. Now, it's changed. He's gone. They've all gone. Right? So that's part of the cancer now gone. There's still a big part of it there, but we can't change that yet. And at the moment, if they dig some money out from down the back of the sofa, or the Chinese Communist Party say to them after yesterday's debacle, and they're calling for your name, they want Fosun out and they want Xi out, we can't have this. This is bad publicity across the world. We can't have this. You're going to have to spend some money. So I think they'll spend some money in January. And I've looked into our prospective new head coach, and he likes to play, his favourite system is a 4-3-3.
Right, yeah.
Which in attack reverts to a 3-2-5. So he's going to sit in with a 4 at the back. Now, he ain't going to do that with our back line. That's pure and simple. So they're going to have to go out in January. I would not be surprised if Ryan Aït-Nouri wasn't sold in January now. And he's going to have to go out and get 2 fullbacks, 2 fully fledged fullbacks, and 2 centre halves. One that's good on the ball, but both of them have got to be quick and commanding. And the next thing he's got to do, Dave, is he's got to incorporate Tommy Doyle into that team as team captain. And I'll tell you for why. Nelson Semedo's not the answer as captain. Nelson Semedo is too quiet. Tommy Doyle wears his heart on his sleeve and he'll give you everything. And Lamina, Andre and Gomez are far too similar. They're the same player all over. It's slow, turgid midfield football that was set up by Gary O'Neill in his so-called fluid formation to protect a failing back line. We can't do that now. We've got to go out. We've got to buy proven players. It's going to cost a lot of money to keep up, to stay up. They've got to go out and buy proven players because this back line ain't good enough. Craig Dawson's not the answer. I told you this at the beginning of the season. If we're reliant on Craig Dawson to play a whole season in a back four, we will go down. Now, at the moment, I'm being proved bloody right here. And you can't get these two wing backs to all of a sudden revert to fullbacks. Ryan Aitnor is an headless chicken. He's great going forward. He's better off on the left wing than he is at left back. He's great going forward or as a wing back. But you can't convert these players. They can't play it. So we're going to carry on leaking goals unless something changes quick. And that's got to come down to mentality as well. Our mentality has got to change. There's got to be all this infighting's got to stop because let me tell you now, I know for a fact that changing room is fractured so badly that it might not work out whoever comes in. But he's got to sit down with them, whoever it is, and say, right, clean slate. Everybody's getting a fresh start, but I'm the boss, and you will listen to me. Gary O'Neill held no sort of command in that dressing room. None whatsoever. They walked all over him. It's a little bit like, it's a long time since I was at school, but you remember when you used to have a relief teacher come in and they were soft and you basically take the piss out of them and you knew they wouldn't be there the following day and you could get away with it because they were too soft. But when your deputy head walked in the room, everybody shut up fast. And that's what we need now. It's no good now having a go at Fosun and that. We've got more pressing things at the moment to worry about. Yes, chant for them, chant their names. I'll tell you now, that would not have gone unnoticed yesterday by the parent company. This isn't a Jeff Shee thing that's happened today. Not on your life has Jeff Shee pushed the button to sack Gary O'Neill. The chairman's come in and said, the big boys in the Chinese Communist Party have told me things have got to change because this is looking a right shit show. Get rid. He's got rid. They've now got to get the right bloke in place and they've got to hit the ground running because we have got to get 1.3 points per game to finish 17th. 17th with this group of players. Now that comes down to a shit show of planning and they've got to once and for all bin this self-sustainability bullshit because it'll take us down and we'll be down forever.
Fantastic. Well articulated, Sutty. Lewis, I want to come to you next, if that's okay. I want you to obviously take on board what Sutty said, agree, disagree, whatever, and also give your thoughts about now Gary O'Neill, because you've said it again a while back that he should go. You were proven right about they don't want to. They'll stick with him rather than go with the under-21 coach as well, because you said that too. And now he's gone today. What do you feel that the catalyst was for you? Do you agree with Sutty that it's come from further up or not? My understanding was that there was a meeting, emergency meeting at 8:30 last night at Molineux. And obviously, where we're at and where we're going to go forward from here, your thoughts?
Yeah, I said a long time ago, Dave, that I think he should be sacked because the run that we had, it was a real set of winnable games and games against teams that are going to be in and around us at the end of the season. So that they're like the 6-pointer games that you really need to not lose. You know, if you can win, that's great, but you really can't afford to lose them. And now that run's gone and we didn't get anything from it. You know, I think the November international break was the best opportunity. It gives the manager a week. Not many of our players, went away. It would have been really good if we had that chance to kind of for the new manager to come in, but in the end it didn't happen, obviously. And now we're, obviously we've got Leicester, but then the really tough run starts. It's something that I spoke about a few weeks ago. Everyone was speaking about how hard the run at the start of the season was. That run after Christmas is just as tough, if not worse, I think, to be honest. So it's a very difficult job to come into, and everything that I've heard about the new manager, I don't know about him too much. I know that I think that as George and Jason were saying in the first half, that it's a Mendes decision, not decision. Sorry, no, it's not the right word. We wouldn't get him without him. He's allowed us to get this manager that we will get. And I think that's a big shift in policy. For so long, Matt Hobbs has been the man who picks the managers and the players. I think that's going to really change in the next, especially in the January transfer window. It will be a return to, okay, who can help us the most and who's going to make the best decisions, and that's going to be with the club working closely with George. I think. I do think that Gary being sacked, as I said, he should have been sacked weeks ago. But that shift with the fans, I think, really becoming openly against the owners rather than just against Gary. That's I think where that shift has come from, and I agree. It's a part of a much bigger thing rather than just the results. If we had lost the game yesterday in the same way, but the fans had only sung against Gary, maybe he'd still have the job. It's I don't think it would have been as certain as it was. As soon as the fans are singing against the owners, that's a big shift. And I think Sooty is right that the Chinese owners they care about status and how things look, and that looks very bad. But I think there's a really, really big opportunity here for the owners to do a really good thing, and I think we will see the best of the owners that we have done for a long time. Because if you imagine, if you own Wolves, the risk of getting relegated, your asset that's worth a lot of money at the minute, Dave. If we were to get relegated, that more than halves in value. So they will be doing everything they can to keep us up this season, to protect their investment. Even if they'd like to sell at the end of the season, if that's their plan, they have to keep us in the league. Otherwise, there's no point in doing that.
Well,
so
200 to 300 million off the value of the club straight away.
So I definitely see that. I definitely think that we will see the best of our owners that we have done in the past few years. The manager, I think, will definitely be right. The support in terms of recruitment will be right. That they will be spending the money that this manager wants. They have to go all in, because otherwise we will be relegated, obviously, and that's terrible for us, as fans. But it's also really bad for them. They won't be able to sell us for what they would be able to in the Championship. So I think it's a really positive opportunity now, Dave, where the owners can really step up, and they will. And obviously Gary isn't here anymore, which I think is it's a great thing. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, as well, the second that Gary wasn't going to be sacked, and they came out with a statement last week, and obviously there's a PR done and all that spin. The second that happens, you're not going to see at Molineux it be focused on Gary O'Neill anymore, because the way it's looked there, it's not going to be Gary. It's like, you could have got rid of him, so it's your fault. Now he's still here. So that focus, that eye, the all-seeing eye, whatever it is, was always going to go. And this is what I was saying in the build-up to the game. It's like I could see it coming, and it was breaking out throughout the game sporadically and getting louder and louder and louder. And I say it wasn't great. Chris, you've waited incredibly patiently, but I know that you've got a bit of a skip in your step today. So that, like Lewis and Sooty, what would you like to add to that? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Dave, I'm going to break with common ground. Everybody says they don't like people to see people lose their jobs, but I'm incredibly happy that Gary's lost his job. I think
we're all saying that we're happy that he's lost his job, but obviously we all wish that he would have been successful, I think, is what
there's some people are saying that people don't like to see people lose their jobs and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, he was totally inept. He wasn't good enough for the job. I mean, the thing that summed him up in his entirety was on Thursday. He told us that Liam Delap was doing very well. He'd been watching him very closely. He's a big lad, and he's put some defenders into some real positions of problems when he's played against them. On Friday, he announces that Nelson Semedo's our captain, and then on Saturday he played him as a third centre back almost.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he was directly against Liam Delap, and then this idiot buffoon that came out after the match and slated Nelson Semedo, saying that a 12-year-old could have defended better against him. He's created that issue, and this is what I can't stand about the bloke, and I'm just sick to the teeth of him. I'm glad he's gone back. I'm glad he's gone. I cannot tell you how infuriating his stupid press conferences have been. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, yeah, they have been a bit.
He's pulled the wool over Hobbs and Shee's eyes to get the job in the first place. He's managed to avoid what's happened at 12 o'clock today for weeks and weeks and weeks, when I do not know how it was possible for him not to be moved on. The whole delay in them making that decision has jeopardised our Premier League survival now. It's going to take an almighty effort, as Keith said, to turn this around, notwithstanding the fact that they're going to have to back a new manager with money, which self-sustainability doesn't fit in with. And if it is Vitor Pereira, as everybody's suggesting, Keith's right, it's a new back four, because that back four, those players we've got, cannot play the system he's going to play. There's a 10-minute YouTube video masterclass that he's done on his time as a Porto manager, where he's actually talked about Moutinho playing for him as well. And it explains how his team works. It's high press, high energy. We're going to have to do some massive changes to our playing staff to play in that style.
And also fitness levels, Chris, I would imagine, too, if you're going to play with that intensity.
Yeah.
Which
definitely,
is, Which is
so, yeah, but you know, you asked the other group in the first half what's everybody the best memory of Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, well, we can do that bit right now. Why not?
My best memory was 12 o'clock today when he was sacked.
I just knew you were going to say that. Okay, so your best memory.
Everybody says about the Albion, but let's face it, Dave. Yes, it's local rivals, but we beat a team in the league below us in the cup. I think you'd expect that from any Premier League side. It's not all that it odds up to be. Yeah, it's the Albion, but it's not a high point. The guys are cretty.
Nice one. Whilst we're on the your moment or highlight of Gary O'Neill, we'll cover that off now because we did in the first half. Sutty and then Lewis. Any special moment or something that under Gary O'Neill's management, aside from 12 o'clock today, 11 o'clock today?
Go on, Lewis.
The City game is always a good memory that you could think of, but as you can see about how important Rodri has been to City, how important Rodri is to City since he's been injured. You've seen how poor they've gone, and obviously that game he didn't play against us, so even that you can kind of think about. Well, when he was positive and really positive, there's always things that you can kind of counter and say, well, yeah, it wasn't as good as it maybe looks on the surface. But no, I think it's been a really, it's been a tough. I think it's 16 or 18 months he's been here. It's hard to think of more than a handful of things that you can say, yeah, it's a good job there. And sorry, there, Lucas has just come in. He said that he spoke with you and he wanted to come on and just say something quickly. So I'm just going to hand over to Lucas.
Absolutely love to hear from younger Lucas as well. Just whilst you're doing that, Matthew Paul, thanks for the super chat. He says Fosun gambled and most important run of games with GON, it's completely backfired. The next 8 games are horrific. Plus with the January, how many of these players are looking at getting out? So, look, my God, he's turned into Lucas. Amazing. Wearing the ultraviolet kit. Hi, Lucas. You want to make a point?
Yeah, I'll just go after everybody's talked. I'll just wait for everybody to talk.
Okay. Well, we were going to go to Sutty next for the his highlight for Gary O'Neill. He obviously clearly needed a bit of time to think about that one.
Well, I suppose we had like Chelsea away 4-2. We hadn't won there in 40 years, whatever it was. Well, I'd never seen us win at Chelsea anyway. But look, he was dropped in. He took the job. He's never going to get a job as big as Wolves again. That's fact. He will never. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me unless he brought a club up from the Championship that you never see him in the Premier League again. He's just not tactically good enough. He was lauded after the Man City win. I mean, let's be honest. That day we beat Man City after drawing away at Luton 1-1 the week before, they absolutely battered us. We had a deflected goal in the first minute, I think it was, and then Wang scored in the second half. But they've absolutely hammered us. Then he had the goal to go on Monday Night Football and talk about a masterclass of how he beat Man City. Well, that was bullshit, really, because we fluked one there, and it got us on a run. We got on a run, and we got ourselves out of the crap. So I don't buy into this masterclass of beating Man City. He was bang lucky there. But again, we're in a situation, we're in a Lopetegui situation, but it's a lot worse now because we've played a lot more games as well. And
I think when Lopetegui took over, we'd actually played 15 games, but because obviously it was brought forward, but there was that big break, weren't there? So we're one game further on.
We're okay.
We've got less. The manager's got literally no time to do a mini preseason.
Yeah, I think this is a lot more serious than when Lopetegui took over. And I don't think that they're going to get away with backing this manager in January and then not backing him in the summer, because this place really will turn, because we're pissed off with it, Dave. The South Bank yesterday was, well, it was loud and noisy, and they were singing Fosun out, and Jeff Shee to F off. But you know the most damning thing in there, Dave, for me, and you won't know this because you sit in there, the empty seats in the North Bank, upper and lower, was incredible.
And there was also empty seats in the Gene Kelly stand as well.
Yeah, it was incredible. I've never seen so many empty seats in the upper section and lower section. I'm not talking about WV1 here, because there's about 150 spare seats there by the looks of it. It was incredible. If that's not a damning indictment of how this club's been run because of the shit show that they produced in the summer by shafting us all, comparing us to Aston Villa on a price comparison, they want shooting. I still want to see them gone, but this is far more pressing at the moment. We've got to hit the ground running. If we lose the next two games, Dave, then we are down.
Absolutely. Just to let people know, I'm not sure about anyone that's been banned, but if they spam the same thing all over it constantly and say the same thing and spam the channel every comment, then it will then our algorithm on YouTube is automatically designed to ban them. So if that Neil's been had his comment stopped, it's because he's been probably saying the same thing on every little comment. So he's been spamming, and that would be why. But I will look into it for him. Maybe he'll stop spamming, but that would be the why. Sutty, that's absolutely a fantastic point again that you made, mate. I think you're making some really excellent points tonight, and it's really it's. I feel like it's quite it's been really tough over the last thing, but in some ways I feel like it's an uplifting. Positive, which is why they needed the circuit breaker and the reset, because we can.
It's been like a creeping death, hasn't it, Dave? I mean, I haven't been well, as you said earlier on last week, but I went to the game yesterday, and it wasn't good that first 30, 40, 50 minutes. I mean, to be honest, when Kuna scored, I don't think I even jumped up and clapped. I just sat in my seat and thought, it just, there's an apathy setting in with people. And you're right. You've got to have this clear break now and start and try and move.
There's a reverb all of a sudden started. Yes. So let me just mute. Testing 1, 2. It's you, Chris. You've hit something because you're now getting a reverb. Because I've put you back off mute. Can you talk now?
Yeah, I could talk.
That's fine.
I don't know what that was.
Carry on, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's we need this, like you say, this clear stop now, and everybody get behind whoever it is. We've just got to push now till the end of the season and try and get out of it, and that's it. The Fosun thing, as Keith says, yes, that's a problem, but our immediate crocodile, nearest canoe, is relegation, and that's what we've got to look at.
Well said. Lucas, you've waited very patiently, and what would you like to say, mate?
I'm just happy that we've gone back. Obviously, with the sacking of Gary O'Neill, he's obviously brought us good times and also the bad times and tough times. That's what football is about. Obviously, celebrating the highs, celebrating the lows. And obviously, now we're going back to George Mendes' client, Victor Pereira. It's obviously good. Hopefully, we can bring more players in. Obviously, bringing players in under the Gestafoot conglomerate that we can carry on and expanding and hopefully pushing on into the Premier League and higher up the season. And also, I'm sad to see Gary go, as I said. It's also happy at the same time because, as I said, high and lows give us wins that some managers couldn't do, especially against West Brom. Had Nuno try and didn't work out. I'm happy that we've been able to move on now mutually and been able to get the new manager, and hopefully we can give him the support that he deserves.
Absolutely, mate. And Lucas, what's your thoughts about this Victor Pereira that's managing at Al Shabab at the moment? Just for those of you that don't know, I'm just going to give you, this is the list of clubs that he's been at in his career. Started off in 2002-03 at Padrosi Juniors, 2003-2004 Porto Juniors. I don't know who these teams are. San Josent 2004-2005, Espin 2005-07. Then he got back to Porto Juniors in 2007-2008. Santa Clara 2008-2010. He was assistant manager at Porto 2010-11. Then the full-time manager from Porto 2011 to 2012, where he did win 2 titles and I think 2 Super Cups. 2013-14 Al Hilal, 2015 Olympiacos, won the league with Olympiacos, I believe. Fenerbahce 2015-16, 1860 Music 2017, was in Shanghai for 2017-20. Went back to Fenerbahce, then was at Corinthians 2022, was at Flamengo in 2023 because someone mentioned he coached João Gomez, so we'll know him. And then since February this year, he's been with Al Shabab. Al Shabab are currently 6th in the Saudi League. I think there was something like 9th last year after something like 9 games. So he has moved around a bit.
Dave, can I quickly say on that list? Yeah. That list looks damning. Everybody on here is going, oh, he's had 20 clubs, he's had 20 clubs. There's another list that states all those clubs and gives his points per match.
Yeah. Let's hear that. If you've got that, that'd be really useful.
It doesn't look so damning then, Dave. He's failed at 1 club. And that
could you give us a bit of insight on that, Sutty? Because I think for most people would be really if you've got some insight on that, you could. You're brilliant for doing your research for these things, so it'd be great to hear a little bit more.
If you go on to Transfer Market and look at his managerial record, he's failed at 1 club, and he took Chris will tell you the second Munich side down. They got relegated from the 2nd tier of German football. And they went down with an average points total. I think his average points total was 1.2 or something like that. But everywhere else he's been 2s per game, 1.95, 1.8. So you've got to take that list into context as well.
He actually got them up, and then in the playoffs, and then took them down. But he did all right with them. Anyway,
yeah. So if you look at that list on Transfer Market with the points per match, that's the list.
Can someone send me that list? Carl, maybe if you're in the thing, if you can search that up, send me the link on WhatsApp. We will put that up. Just before we move on, this is a really kind gesture from David Wright, one of our members. Really, really nice of you to send that, mate. To you, Dave, thank you for all your hard work. That's really, really, really appreciated, mate, for your kindness for that. And it is much appreciated. Thank you very much. Carry on, Sooty.
Yeah, so I think it obviously when people are saying, "God, he's had 20 clubs, he's worse than Walter Zenga," take it from me, this guy is nowhere near Walter Zenga.
You quite positive then, Sooty, about this appointment?
I think I've told you I have a lad work for me who's Portuguese, he's a Porto supporter, and when I told him that this is the front runner come today, he did sort of raise his eyebrows a little bit, because he said he goes to lots of different clubs and he still maintains that we've missed out on Conte Sao. He said that's the man you need, that is the man you need, but we ain't gonna get him by the looks of it. He said he's not saying he's a bad manager, Vitor Pereira. He said, but he does move clubs a lot. But when I've done a bit of research, because I've been at work today, when I've done a bit of research, that's it.
So if I scroll up, tell me where I need to go, down to this bit here.
On the right-hand side, it should tell you points per game, points per match, PPM.
There. Okay, so let's have a look at that then. So he was Santa Clara manager, 1.65 points per game. Obviously didn't count. FC Porto manager, 2.27 points per game. Al Hilal, 1.81. I'm reading this out for everyone that's leading on the podcast as well. Olympiacos, 2.22 points per game. Fenerbahce, 2.7. 1860 Munich, not so good. Only managed for 20 games, though. Just over a point a game. Shanghai, 2.03. Fenerbahce again, 1.6. Corinthians, 1.6. Flamengo, 1.6. Al Shabab, 1.7. And you're telling me we need 1.3 points a game to get to 17th.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thanks for Carl for sending that across. So that sort of put your point up there that you were making, Sooty.
So it does look damning, the list, until you put that one up that you've just seen. And like I say, he's nowhere near Walter Zenga. He's far closer to Nuno than he is to Walter Zenga. He's nowhere near Walter Zenga.
If we could have someone that's close to Nuno, that would be great, Lewis, wouldn't it?
And not only that, he'll command a dressing room. No ego. These egos and all this, what's happening after games and that'll be gone. There'll be no in-house fighting. And what we've got to do now as well is when we do appoint players, we've got to make sure that their mentality and the way they behave is in a way that's going to dig us out of this. We need some characters now, Dave, who are going to battle and dig in and leave an elbow in and get real nasty. We're too nice. We fail when we concede. You can see it. I don't want players running up to the South Bank telling me, come on, sing. Well, I'm going to swear now, Dave. Fuck off. It's your job to entertain me and then I'll sing. Do not come up to me giving it this. I don't need that. I'll sing. My voice goes after every game. It's your job and you're paid a lot of money to dig in when the times are hard. And now it's very hard. So dig in, get your head down and get us out the shit that you've put us in.
Lewis, back to you. As Sooty said, if he was closer to Nuno, that would be a really good thing. And also for you, what do the owners need to do now if we've got this man coming in as it looks likely to be?
They just need to just give him what he needs, Dave. He's going to come in and he'll assess what's there and what can be used, in terms of the players and what's good about us at the minute, which isn't a lot, but there are parts that will that are good and he can use, and the rest they have to give him everything, because otherwise we will be relegated. And like I said, I'm very convinced that we will see that. We will get everything from the owners, because ultimately their investment is the most important thing to them. So yeah, I think if he wants 2 centre backs in January, they've got to go and get them, and they've got to get them early as well. It's no good coming in the 30th of January and saying, oh, we might get it over the line. They need to be here. That needs to be assessed after the first week of him working with the squad. After the first game, he needs to say, okay, I need 2 centre backs here. Go and find me them now. Let's get them done the first week of January, at the latest, because every game is so important. You know, if Sutty spoke about that 1.3 points per game, if you lose a game, that point ratio goes up, obviously. So you need, every game is so important, and you know it's just about giving him exactly what he said he needs. If they are going to pick him as the man that they think can keep us in the league, then really give him everything he needs to keep us there. There's no point otherwise. It's useless. So I think, like I say, if he needs 2 centre backs, go and buy them. It might not make financial sense at the time, but it keeps us in the league. It doesn't matter at all. And it's the same. There's going to be a couple of tough decisions, I think, especially towards the end of the season. You know, a couple of contracts are running out. Like I think Lamina's contract might expire in the summer. Obviously, Semedo's contract expires. Dawson. Yeah, these are the players that you're going to have to make a decision on, and that's going to be, obviously, it's probably not going to happen straight away, but towards the back end of the season, depending on how we are and where we are. If you're going to stick with the manager beyond the end of this season, we'll make that decision with him. If you know that he's kept us up or he's took us down, whatever, make those decisions with the best plan in your mind. You know, if you're going to stick with that manager, okay, listen to him, let's work with him rather than trying to pull away in a different direction. I think that's the really most important thing that they can do as a club, and the same for Matt Hobbs. They have to be moving in one direction together. Rather than it felt like, you know, the club wanted one thing and Gary and Matt and maybe we're pulling in a different direction. If you're not going to pull in the same direction, you have to go.
Absolutely. I want to come back on something that you said earlier in a different show, but I know someone just recently said, yeah, well, you're expecting to get loads of points because they're top teams. You don't get to manage top teams without having some credentials, but being good at something. You don't get employed by top teams unless they think that you're good. And also, Mr. Tavares has put an interesting comparison, which I'm really grateful for him to doing. For those of you who are listening back on the podcast, I will read this out. And this is a win percentage. At Porto, Julian Lopetegui, great win percentage, 67.95%. You know, Nuno Espirito Santo, who we absolutely, you know, love and still wish he was here, never left, doing wonders at Forest. He was at 55.10%. Victor Pereira, 69.89%, which is thought really interesting comparison. And Lewis, going back onto something you said 2 or 3 weeks back, actually, and you made the point, you talked about the 2 centre-backs, and you talked about the owners making the decision and all of this, but you also made the point that you expect, and the Matt, the sporting director of the recruitment team, will be judged on how quickly they act at the beginning of January, not sort of like scratching around at the end. They need to have plans in place now to make that first week in January to bring players straight away in. And do you just want to go over that? Move on to Chris.
Yeah, the plans will obviously be different now, Dave, because Gary's changed. Sorry, the manager's changed. Gary's left, and there's a new manager coming in. So the players that Gary may have wanted and said, "Yeah, I'd like him in the team," that might not be the same player that the new manager will want. But if you ask Gary really what he really wanted, he wanted to play 4 at the back, and he was trying to do it with our players that we have now, which is so foolish. So maybe some of the players that they will have in mind will apply to the new manager, but it really depends. But it's all about the manager coming in this week, ideally, having 1 week to assess the team. He has to do it very quickly himself, and then going to Matt Hobbs and saying, okay, these are the weaknesses that everyone can see, but this is my insight, what it's worth, obviously, and then Matt and the recruitment team going and finding exactly what he wants. If he says he wants a defender from Spain that maybe the recruitment team haven't looked at previously, they have to give him that defender, because the manager is the person that they're bringing in to keep us up. It's not Matt Hobbs that's keeping us up. It will be the manager.
Well said, Chris. Do you want to just come in on all of those points, mate, and what you think?
Yeah, I think what I'd say about somebody put that comment about top sides. Well, yeah, he has managed top sides, but that's a good thing, right? That he's actually got the job there.
Yeah.
I mean, Porto's a top side, Fenerbahce a top team from Turkey. I mean, what you're getting here is a guy that's managed teams with all the Fajazzle of the Champions League. So he's a top experienced manager.
RWUK is trying to consolidate his point. He's saying that we were missing the point he was making. The point he was trying to make is the one club that was struggling, similar to us, he didn't do very well. He's not against him. He's just keeping a judgment until see what he does. He's trying to clarify his point, I think.
Yeah, I accept that. But you've also got to imagine that those percentages include all those Champions League games. So, you don't win every one of those. So they're good. They're good figures. If he is the one that's selected, of course.
Which it seems to be. The next thing that we'll just want to talk about now, I'm not going to go over the game from the weekend now because we're in a new era. I do want us to look ahead to Leicester briefly. What your thoughts are ahead of that, and what your expectations on your score prediction. And whilst we're doing this, guys, because there are literally nearly 1,400 still watching, sticking with us on a Sunday night, fantastic. If you're watching, hit the like button. There's a load of you that, do watch our channels. That I think there's something like 70% or 65% that watch that aren't subscribed. So hit the subscribe button. It helps us grow, which means we can do bigger and better things for you in the future and invest in purchasing things to make the quality better and stuff like that. So much appreciated. Chris, we'll start with you on this one. Expectations for Leicester and a score prediction. What sort of thing are you expecting to happen between now and obviously, say this Victor Pereira's appointed in the next 48 hours. He's going to be the manager. What are your thoughts ahead of Leicester, which will be, I think it's on the Sunday, isn't it? It's on the Sunday, 2:00. That's good as well.
I'd imagine, David, that if it is him, he's probably already watching games, recordings. He's probably, it's clear to, you'd be partially sighted and see what's going on with our team. It's quite easy. So he's going to have to look at positioning, set piece defending. I'd love a manager to come in and play people in the positions that they're supposed to be playing. That'd be a start, wouldn't it? If we didn't have players playing out of position. And I think he's got to try and steady the ship in some way. And the best way of doing that is, like I say, putting players in the position they're used to, making them familiar with the game again. Tommy Doyle needs to probably get in, as we've said. It's a crime, really, that he's not been given game time. And I don't know how much of that is down to the fact that we're trying to showcase Andre to make revenue off him or not. I don't understand why you wouldn't play somebody with his ball playing of drive and vision when we can't seem to break out the game, break away with the ball. So he needs to come in and just try and steady it in as best way as he can. Whether that's going to be enough to win the game, I look, these players on paper are better than Leicester's, and with confidence and no stupid tactics or confusing messages from the management, you put them down every day to beat them. So, we might find that not having those shackles of Gary's masterful tactics before they run out of the pitch makes them get out and do something. But they look a very confident shot side at the moment, and that's really the thing that we've got to take on for Saturday's game anyway. I get the must win statement from people. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw.
2-2 draw. Right, we're going to go with that. Well, I'm going to look in the comments. Right, we're going to go with Lewis next. Please, your thoughts and what you think, how the week will go, and what will happen, and what's your score prediction?
I think I expect the manager to be appointed, Victor Ferreira. I think that will happen very quickly, Dave. I think that it's always hard when a new manager comes in, because obviously you expect that bounce effect a new manager can have, but it is difficult because when a team like we're so low. It's not just a run of games that we've struggled in it. As long as you can remember, really, since the second half of last season, we've been playing this poor. So it's a big job to come in and just turn it around with a win that quickly. I think that the style of play I would expect to be quite different. I think that we will be much more aggressive and hopefully a lot more direct as well. I think especially towards the end of Gary's time, it just felt as if every time we were going to go forward, the attack kind of fell apart and we'd end up passing it backwards, and then we'd end up passing back to the goalkeeper from a really promising position. So I hope that changes, because it was really disappointing when that would happen. Chris obviously mentioned Tommy Doyle. I think it would be nice to play the players that who are on better form, rather than playing Andre Lamina and Gomez consistently, just because they're the three. Well, what about Tommy Doyle? Because when he's come off the bench, he's played well. He deserves to play, and he's shown more in games than those three have for a while. I don't mind Andre. I think he can offer a little bit more, especially if Doyle's there. But I just don't see how you can get all three of those players in.
That's always been the conundrum. It's almost like the old Gerard Lampard thing with England all them years ago.
Yeah, so it's a really tough job for his first game, Dave. But we just can't lose, and maybe he'll take that same attitude that if we don't lose this game, it's a partial success, and if we win, that's great. But obviously Leicester look vulnerable. Obviously after the result yesterday, even in their first game with Van Nistelrooy, I thought they were fairly lucky.
Is that the game against West Ham?
Yeah,
I thought West Ham did a lot
better than they did, and in the end, they were just able to take their chances. So I think Leicester's the team you probably say, okay, it's a good game to start with, but it's a really tough job to come into. And I think it's going to take a couple of weeks, I'd say, there before we see what he'd like, and probably until January until we see really what he wants and how he wants to play. But I just hope that the club can give him what to get there.
And what's your score prediction then?
I'm going to go 1-1, Dave.
Before I go to Sutty, Chris, you just put your hand up. You want to make a point?
Yeah, Dave, one more thing I'd like the new manager to do was get our defenders to defend on corners rather than defend zones. Let's put that in the bin.
Man-to-man marking.
Yeah, because we're shit at it.
We are really bad at it. That's the understatement. Right, whilst I go to Sutty, guys, who's going to give his answer, this is your opportunity now in the chat. If you have any questions for Chris, for Lewis, for Sutty, or for all of us, bang it in your question, because that'll be the last part of the show, and we'll try our best to answer. So whilst we look at that, Sutty, your thoughts, what your expectations are ahead of Leicester, and your score prediction.
Well, just looking at the tweets at the moment, the Southampton manager's been sacked, so they'll be looking for a manager. So that makes us even more in a position where we've got to act fast for the man that we deem is the right man. Look, we've won 2 games at home since April the 28th.
Oh, one of them was Burnley, wasn't it? In the cup?
No, league games.
Oh, league games, yeah.
Luton, Southampton.
Oh, Luton and, that's right, yeah.
Let's be honest. That is an utter shit show. of epic proportions. There's not a club in the world. There's not a club on a Sunday morning that would put up with that, Dave. You get the sack. So they've been so slow in this. They've put us in this position, and we can't go to Leicester and say you've got to play us entertaining football. We've got to play with flair, pace, and all we've got to do is shit out a 1-0 win and make sure that Leicester do not pull away from us anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it comes off Strand Larsen's arse or Sam Johnson goes up for a 93rd minute corner and it hits him on the back of the head and goes in. It does not matter. We have to win. 1.3 points per game is huge. It's all right saying we've got 22 games left. Well, that's okay if all of a sudden you rock into like top 5 form. Yeah, it's great, but we ain't.
We haven't, have we? We've got 20 games left because we've got 20 games left.
20 games left.
Yeah.
So we've got to win. Not only have we got to win against them, we've got to get to January and take a minimum of 6 points before January comes. So this man's got to set us up and make us very, very difficult to beat. Now, if that was me, I would play a 3 centre halves and 2 wing backs for now. I certainly wouldn't persevere trying to play a back 4 with this lot. Us 4 might as well play because honestly, this lot frighten the life.
I've seen Lewis play. He's pretty good, but I'm not sure about defensively. He's more of a flair player. Yeah.
So I'm praying for a 1-0 win. I'm not sure we'll get it because the only thing that's keeping me hopes up is that I've got a lot of friends in Newcastle, and today I received a text off one of them, and he said there is no way on earth that Wolves can be as bad as Leicester City. He said they are that bad. I said, well, we'll question that next weekend.
Hold my beer type of thing.
Yeah, so let's hope that we can just grind out 3 points because it'll take the pressure off a little bit because we can't have Leicester being 8 points in front of us.
I agree. I think every one of us now would take a 1-0 win. Let's go to any questions. RWUK is, I think we've kind of answered this, but if I'll go with Lewis on this one. How many signings does the new manager need to bring in to give us a chance, mate, in your opinion? You're on mute, mate. Schoolboy error again.
Yeah. Going off the basis that he will play 4 at the back, we do need 2 centre halves because I like Santi Bueno. He could probably the only one who I think could play in the back 4 and be okay. So we need 2 more. Totti could be okay off the bench, maybe as a left back. So then that takes that pressure there. So 2 centre half. A right back for me is a must because I love Nelson so much. I think that last season he was our best player for sure, but he can't be a right back. He's not. So we need at least 1 right back, and the same for Pedro Lima as well. To be honest, he's definitely an attacking fullback, which at the minute it's okay when we're much more confident and we're playing well, but we've got to get there. And yeah, a left back's probably maybe if we put Totti at left back, it wouldn't be a big thing, but Ain't Nouri isn't a left back at all. So at least 3 in defenders, and I think if we can get 3 defenders at least, that's not bad. But we need more than that still.
A couple of similar questions here, and Chris or Sutty might want to answer this, or Lewis, you can jump in. Max Hastings, who we're selling in January to make for new players. Ellie, who do you think will go in January if these new players to suit this system? Sutty or Chris, or what were your thoughts on that? I think Sarr will go.
Sarr will go. Sarabia will go.
I think Ain't Nouri will go in January. I think this guy, if he's going to bring in, I agree with Keith. I think it's a complete back 4 that he needs. I just don't think he'll they've got to fund it somehow. Sarabia, get off the books, his high wages. Ignore his, we can make some money from him. We might even try and get rid of Semedo on a cut price before he goes for nothing.
Also, there is a possibility Semedo might sign a new contract because that's been mooted. There is open to it.
Well, I mean, is he going to sign a new contract if he's getting a manager in that doesn't play with the position he's going to need?
I don't know. Obviously, he'll make a judgment on that himself.
Yeah. We've got three midfielders that are the same that I don't think we need. I'd rather keep, get Tommy Doyle in there every other game and get rid of one of those three similar ones. Interesting. I think there's going to be, this guy must be coming in. They've got to be giving him license to revamp the team.
Yeah.
Let's face it, the team we've got ain't good enough in its current guys.
Absolutely.
Dave, quickly on this. Look, we're 19th for a reason. We've got to stop bluffing ourselves that we have this superb team. Yes, we haven't had the best guidance from a very poor manager, but they have to have some they have to pride. They're just capitulated, and it's not just about being good with the ball at your feet, or you've got to have some pride for the badge. It's all rolled into one. So I'm not quite so sure we have this side that a lot of people claim. It could be under the right guidance, but I think saying we're too good to go down.
No team's ever too.
We're naive, because at the moment we're on course for conceding nearly 100 goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis, I don't know if you can throw any light on that. Any centre backs that you come to mind?
There's one that I like, Dave. He plays in RC Lens in France. He's Facundo Medina. He plays for Argentina. I think he's a really good centre back. He's left-sided as well, which I think we definitely need if Totti is going to become a left back, which I expect him to under the new manager. But other than that, I think it's going to be whatever the new manager wants, to be honest. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, that's obviously what you're hoping, that they're already got their eyes on this. There's people that are paid a lot of money. Question. George says, question for the panel. Will victory keep us up? Yes or no, Chris?
I think that depends on how engaged Fosun are with him in terms of backing. If he comes in and he's told, this is what you've got, just work your magic, and is a bit of money in January, we ain't got an helping else chance. They may as well, if that was the case, they may as well have not appointed him. Well, they haven't appointed him yet. They may as well have just gone for Mark Robbins and prepared for the championship.
Yeah. Lewis?
I think we'll stay up, Dave. I do think he'll keep us up because, as I've said, throughout the show, they have to keep us up because, I saw a comment just come up whilst Chris was talking that Jeff will leave and Fosun will leave if we get relegated. They're never going to sell us if we get relegated because the money that they will have lost, it will be, so high, especially with the players that. Every player will have a relegation clause in their contract, so they have to sell them for a real low price. They know they have to keep us up, and I really expect him to keep us up.
Yeah, I think Sutty, same to you.
Well, Dave, it's this guy's clearly got a decent record, so his record isn't in question. This is all down to our owners and how they spend money or don't spend money. It's their track record of late hasn't been very good, and neither has Mr. Hobbs, to be honest. So they're going to have to let this man have exactly what he wants and let him take it from there. It's time to ditch this self-sustainability bullshit, because that's what it is. It never works. It never worked. Brighton, it will fail for Brighton one day. That is fact.
I think, you know what, Kieran Maguire, who we did that fantastic interview with, he said it only takes 1 or 2 bad windows or getting it wrong, and they'd be in the same boat. Question here. Do you think Hobbs will relieved of his duties if Mendes is back on the scene? I don't see that Matt Hobbs is going to be relieved of his duties anytime soon. If he has a bad window, though,
I think you got, Dave, I think you have to look at that a little bit more balanced.
Yeah.
You do need to look at how he's managed players' exits. And to be fair, he's fetched decent revenue for some of the players we've got. You know, anybody that managed to sell Mateus Nunes for the money we did, there's something about them because he was crap, you know. And so I think he might get his role reappraised because he, you know, that's the worst I think would happen to him at the moment. I can't see him being moved on.
No, and for me, having George working a bit closer with us now, it doesn't replace the sporting director. You know, Matt, as sporting director, acts solely on the best interests of Wolves. George, why would he do that? He works for the person who pays him the most. So if he had a player available for transfer and Forest said they wanted him and they told him he'd pay more, they'd pay more to him. Yeah, as much as it would be nice for him to send that player to us, he has no obligation to do that. Whereas someone who's a sporting director for Wolves would fight for that transfer. So no, I don't see Hobbs leaving just because we're working closely with George again.
Do you think his number 2 will be seen back at Molineux, Lewis? What's his name?
I think that it's possible Vale Cardozo might come a lot more regularly again. Again, it depends on that relationship. I think if the manager feels like he has a good relationship with the club from the off and that goes well, then yeah, I'd expect that to happen a bit more, but maybe not to the same extent that it was, for example, when Nuno and Bruno were the managers. I think that relationship has changed slightly.
And that's probably a good thing. We need that middle ground. Tom Rouse has got a really interesting question. Sutty, you can answer this one. How would you punish Kuna and Ryan Aitner for yesterday if you were manager? Litter picking after the United game, he says.
Well, you laugh at that. Bielsa did that to a whole Leeds squad.
Yeah.
After a bad performance, he took them out into Leeds for 4 hours with a bag and litter pickers and made them pick up rubbish in Leeds town centre, in Leeds city centre for 4 hours to show them how much what people do who come to watch them and how difficult it is for them to earn their money. The trouble is, we can't afford for them to not be on board. We're in the shit. We've got to get the best out of these players, and I think a very stern talking to saying, if that happens again, you're out the door, basically. We will listen to offers for you because we can't have that. It looks terrible. I stood there yesterday thinking, what has this club descended into? It's almost anarchy at Molineux at the moment. It's such a bad place to be at the moment. I don't even want to go there.
No, I know. It's tough. Listen, I'm going to do one final question because I had a complaint last week, a serious complaint from Cheerful Chris. I had a really serious complaint of Serious Chris, a Cheerful Chris. And by the way, I do want to thank everyone who's subscribed to the channel in the last 2 days because our subscriber numbers have just rocketed. We're on about getting to 35,000. We're now 7 short of 35,200, which is amazing. And thank you for everyone that's liked the video and become a member tonight and also subscribed. It really is appreciated. But yeah, Cheerful Chris, we went off air last week and he went, there was a blooming question asking our favourite Christmas song and I missed it. So I promised him next time he was on, we'd ask the question, as it is Christmas, a little bit of light-heartedness towards the end, everyone's favourite Christmas song, and you can put this in the chat as well. Chris.
I'll give you 2 songs, Dave.
You got 2. Okay, we'll let you have 2.
My favourite Christmas song is I Believe in Father Christmas by Greg Lake.
Yeah, great song.
That's my number 1 best Christmas song ever. And the song that I'm liking at the moment and have been listening to most of the day is a song called Go Now by the Moody Blues.
Go Now, and you'd recommend people, is that a new one?
No, it's an old song.
It's
It's referring to our manager going.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and look, someone here for I Believe in Father Christmas. Lewis, have you got a favourite Christmas song that you like?
Yeah, I like Rocking Around the Christmas Tree because it always makes me think of the scene in Home Alone when he has the person shutting the lights on. I think that's quite, yeah.
Rocking's a good one, that is. Adrian said it's a good driving down for Christmas. JS96 says good tune, that Chris. We've got a few more coming on. He likes the Slade song. Sooty, what about you?
Well, for me, the only good thing about Christmas is plenty of football. I'm not a Christmas lover. I think it's a load of shite, to be honest, Dave. But there you go. Greg Lake's a great tune. And a Christmas number 1 from back in my youth when I was at high school, a very long time ago, about 40 years ago, actually, I think. The Power of Love by Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Oh, what a banger that is, mate. Cracking track. But Last Christmas, Wham is always a good one, of course. I like the what's the one? All I Want for Christmas Is You. That one's quite good. It starts slow and it's banging. But I think my all-time favourite has to be the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York. I know a few people have said that one. It's just an absolute classic Christmas tune. And I'm sure we'll hear loads more Christmas tunes over the next few weeks. And let's hope that the decisions that have been made today and hopefully this week will result of it being a much merrier Christmas than we were expecting at Wolves, and that our defensive line starts to become humbug and not give away a lot, because that would be let's stop gifting all these other teams lots of presents, and let's start keeping them for ourselves and keeping that back door shut. Guys, listen, we're just over 2 hours. It's been an extra time special on the sacking of Gary O'Neill, the potential arrival of Victor Pereira. There's lots more that will be, hit that subscribe button in the bell, because we'll be keeping you up to date with all the news. Sorry that the match vlog for Ipswich has been delayed, but there's so much happened. That'll be out on Monday night. Thanks for Chelsea that did the watch along. She did an absolutely fantastic job. Thank you, for everyone that subscribed. Thank you to Creation Wolf for powering the show again tonight. Thanks to all of you guys in the chat. We've had well over 1,000 watching the whole way through the night, which is incredible. Thank you for everyone for being respectful to each other in the chat. That's always important. And thank you finally for Gary O'Neill for trying, for the few moments of joy that you did give us. And he'll be fine. He'll be probably sitting on a beach somewhere for Christmas, topping up his tan. He'll be okay. I think what you said, maybe he will come back in the future. He's a young coach. He's an English coach. We do wish him well, but he's going to have to drop down the leagues and really earn his, build up from there, I think. And maybe he will be in the Premier League one day, such like you said, bring a team up, but I think it will be a while. I think he'd make a pretty good number 2 personally as well. But, guys, thanks ever so much. Thanks to Jason. Thanks to George. Thanks to Lewis. Thanks to Lucas. Thanks to Chris. Thanks to Sooty. And thank God they've sacked that manager. From all of us, always Wolves.
Always.